Hey guys, imagine this. You're 16, you signed up for adventure, a uniform, a cause, maybe just to get off the farm. Now you're standing on a gangplank, boots too big, stomach too empty. The air smells like coal smoke and sea rot. And in front of you, a battleship. Not a sleek cruiser, not a movie poster, a floating fortress made of 20,000 tons of riveted steel and bad intentions. She groans like a living thing, pipes hiss, deck plates rattle, chains clank with no rhythm. It's not music, it's warning. This isn't a boat, it's a beast, and you're climbing inside her mouth. Your duffel weighs nothing compared to what's coming. Cramped quarters, explosions, fire, days without light, nights without sleep. The kind of fear you can't talk about. The kind you have to swallow. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, give it a like and subscribe. It helps us keep making them. Now close your eyes. You're not at home anymore. You're not in your bed. You're standing on steel. The deck shifts, the whistle blows, and the ocean swallows everything behind you. You don't know much about ships. Not really. You know they float. You know they're big. But you didn't understand what big meant until today. You stand at the dock, boots on cobblestone, staring up at a wall of metal so high it blocks out the sky. Grey, rusted, immense. A battleship. Your battleship. She doesn't have a friendly name, not like a girl or a saint. She's called HMS Dreadnought, or HMS Iron Duke, or HMS Something Built to Kill, and she wears her name like a scar. You don't know if you're boarding a ship, or being swallowed whole by something older, colder and meaner than anything you've ever imagined. The officer yells. You shoulder your pack, and you climb the gangplank one slow, shuddering step at a time. The metal hums underfoot, vibrates up through your soles and into your bones. Not loud, just present, like a growl in the belly of something alive. You reach the deck. Someone shouts a name that's not yours. A bell rings, a pipe hisses. You're aboard now. Welcome to your new home. You're not sure what you expected. Maybe clean floors, tight beds, brass rails. Instead you get rust, heat, noise. A smell that hits you like a slap to the face. Part oil, part sweat, part cooked cabbage gone to hell. Your quarters are a coffin with hinges. 6 bunks stacked in a room smaller than your dad's chicken coop. You get the bottom one. Not because you asked, because you were slow. The mattress is canvas. The blanket smells like 100 other terrified boys sweated through it last week. You dump your pack, sit. The bunk groans under your weight like it's got opinions. You're sweating already, even though it's freezing outside. Below decks, it's always hot, always loud, always cramped. The air doesn't move. The ship breathes in steam and exhales something worse. A sailor walks by older, beard like a wire brush. Tattoos from a time when tattoos weren't cool. He doesn't look at you, doesn't speak, just mutters, dead man walking like he's talking to the floor. You pretend you didn't hear that. You get to tour, if you can call it that. It's more like a gauntlet. The corridors are narrow, the stairs are vertical, the walls sweat. Everything smells like it's about to catch fire. You pass the boiler room, glance inside, regret it instantly. It's a furnace, a real one. Men shoveling coal like demons sentenced to their own punishment. Shirts off, eyes wild, skin slick and blackened. They don't see you. They see the flame, and they feed it. You hurry past, try to breathe, fail. You're shown the galley, where food goes to die. Grey meat, grey peas, grey bread. If it has a colour, it's been processed out. You're shown the latrine. You wish you hadn't been. One long pipe, no privacy, no mercy. You learn to hold it, or suffer. Then, finally, you're shown the gun deck. Cannons. bigger than your house. Long black tubes of doom bolted into cradles of steel and grease. The kind of weapons that don't just kill, they erase. You walk past one slowly, hand trailing the cold barrel like it might whisper secrets. It doesn't. But it does hum, low, deep, like it's dreaming of blood. Ever seen a 12-inch gun fire? A voice behind you asks. You turn. Another sailor, maybe 30, missing a tooth, maybe 2. He grins. Looks like the sky fell down. Sounds worse. First time I saw it, I pissed myself. Most people do. You nod. Because that's what you do when someone tells you they pissed themselves and looks proud about it. Don't stand behind one when it goes off, he says. Blow your insides out your ears. Then he walks away, whistling. You decide you don't want to see the 12-inch gunfire. Evening comes fast at sea. You don't even realise it's happening until someone says, lights out in 10. There are no windows, no clocks, just routines. You crawl into your bunk. Lie there, blanket up to your chest. Hands folded like you're waiting to be buried. Someone above you snores. Someone across from you coughs. Someone farts and no one even reacts. You close your eyes. Try to sleep. Fail. Because the ship never stops moving and it creaks, groans, moans. Like it's old, tired, hungry. Your body doesn't want to be here. Your stomach rolls. Your ears ring. Your lungs ache from the damp. You think about home. About your mum, your sister, your dog if it's still alive. You wonder if they miss you. You wonder if they'd recognise you now. A bell rings at midnight. No reason, just a change in watch. You listen as boots shuffle past your bunk. Men half asleep, half dead, fully resigned. A voice whispers, "You ever feel like the ship's watching you?" You don't answer, because you do. And you're afraid if you say it out loud it'll hear you. You press your hands to your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Still there. For now. Outside, the sea slaps against the hull like it's trying to get in. And deep below, somewhere in the black where the pressure can crush a man in seconds, something waits. You don't know what. You just know that if the ship goes down, you go with it. There's no escape. No parachute, no lifeboat big enough. No mercy. You roll onto your side, shut your eyes tighter, and whisper, "Please don't let me die down here." The ship groans and says nothing back. You wake to a sound that isn't a sound. It's pressure. A deep rumbling thrum that travels through steel and bone. It doesn't wake you with noise. It wakes you with weight, like someone laid a train track across your chest. And now a locomotive is coming, slow but steady. You open your eyes. The ceiling's 6 inches above your face, grey, sweating, pitted with rust. You forgot where you were for a second. You always do, but the smell brings it back. Boiled cabbage, engine grease, human fear. You swing your legs over the side, your boots hit metal. Your socks are still damp from yesterday. Or maybe they just never dried. You step into the corridor, low ceiling, pipes hissing like snakes that haven't eaten. Someone mutters past you, "Boiler room's alive today." You don't ask what that means. You'll find out soon enough. The corridor ends in a hatch. Big, bolted, thick. You spin the wheel. It squeals, metal screaming against metal. Then the door groans open and heat punches you in the face. Not warm, not cosy. Hostile. It smells like a machine that doesn't want you in it. Steam curls around your ankles like it's checking who you are. You duck inside. Welcome to the engine room. It's not a room. It's a cathedral. Hellish cathedral made of fire, iron and unforgiving gods. Giant pistons move like they're angry at gravity. Gears turn, belts slap. Flywheels spin fast enough to take an arm, and some poor bastard's already lost one, Judging by the sign that says "Don't touch what bites," the whole place breathes. Not metaphorically, literally. Every few seconds the ship inhales boilers, sucking in air, and then exhales through roaring exhaust vents overhead. It doesn't breathe like a human. It breathes like a furnace trying to stay alive. The men down here? They don't talk much. Too loud, too hot, too busy. Their shirts are soaked, their eyes glazed, their hands black with soot. They move with a kind of rhythm, not grace, but something close. Shovel, lift, toss. Shovel, lift, toss. Again and again. For hours. You ask one guy, "How long's your shift?" He just shrugs. Until someone collapses. The chief engineer spots you, waves you over. You try to walk, but every step is like trekking across an oven rack. The metal's hot. The air's thicker than soup. You reach him. He looks you up and down. "You knew?" he asks. You nod. He hands you a rag. Wipe down the pressure dials. Careful, some of them bite. You nod again, even though that doesn't make sense. Then again, nothing down here makes sense. The noise is deafening, not just loud, oppressive. Like it's trying to shove the thoughts out of your head. You clean one gauge, then another. Your fingers burn even through the rag. One dial is vibrating, fast, you skip it. The engineer notices. "That one's sick," he says. "Could blow." "Couldn't." You take a step back. He grins. "That's the fun part, never know." Someone starts coughing. Not a polite, "Oh, I have a cold cough." A deep lung-rattling hack that sounds like it came with a receipt. You turn. A man leans against a support beam, hand on his chest. Black flecks on his palm, coal lung. He wipes them on his pants, keeps shoveling. No one helps. No one reacts. You realise this is normal. You try not to breathe too deep. Too late. Your throat burns. Your eyes water. You wipe your face. The rag comes back black. After 2 hours, or maybe 4, someone rings a bell. Relief shift. You follow the others up a ladder that's slick with sweat and old oil. Back in the corridor, the air feels colder, but only by comparison. Your skin's bright red. Your shirt sticks to your chest like paint. You smell like a burned engine and regret. A sailor next to you whispers, "The ship's hungry." You give him a look. He nods toward the boilers. "Every mile we sail, that's 50 tons of coal, and it all has to go in by hand." You do the math, then you stop doing the math, because the answer is too many dead lungs. You stagger to the mess hall. Sit. Try to chew a biscuit that tastes like sand and iron filings. A guy across from you is eating with one hand, the other's wrapped in gauze. Burn, probably. Maybe caught it in a gear. He doesn't speak, just chews. Stares into space like he's forgotten his name and doesn't miss it. You ask, "How long have you been aboard?" He looks up slowly. "Too long," he says. Then he laughs. "Once." Dry and cracked. Back in your bunk, you strip to your waist. Your undershirt is stained yellow. Your fingers won't stop trembling. You lie down. Close your eyes. Try not to think about how the walls are sweating again. In the distance, you hear the engines rumble. The floor vibrates like it's alive, like the ship is dreaming of blood again. You wonder how many tons of pressure it takes to tear a boiler apart. You wonder how far you'd get if one exploded. You wonder if you'd even hear it in time. Someone above you snores, someone else coughs. You taste coal dust in the back of your throat. You whisper, "Keep breathing, old girl, just for one more day." And somewhere below your feet the ship exhales, like it heard you. Time doesn't work the same down here. There's no sun, no sky, no real clock, except the one they ring when they want something from you. Day becomes just a word, And night? Night is a rumour you hear from the guys above deck, the lucky ones. The ones with jobs that let them breathe fresh air and look at something that isn't steel. You wake when someone shakes you. You sleep when they stop shouting. You eat when food appears if you're lucky and if your stomach can handle it. This isn't a schedule. This is survival dressed as routine. The first thing you learn below deck is this: everything's damp. Not wet, not soaked. Damp. Constant. Creeping. Creepy. Your socks. Damp. Your blanket. Damp. The air feels like someone steamed it through a corpse. You wipe your forehead. Sweat, maybe. Condensation, probably. Your shirt sticks to your back like glue made from regret. The metal walls sweat too. Tiny beads of water sliding down like the ship's crying, except it never stops. And the worst part? You get used to it. That's the most terrifying part of all. You spend the morning hauling crates, ammunition, tools, barrels of things you're not allowed to open. The guy ahead of you drops his crate. It cracks. A dark liquid leaks out. Thick. Smells like formaldehyde and secrets. He looks up at the officer. "Should I?" "Don't touch it," the officer snaps. They bring in two guys with gloves and a bucket. They mop it up like it's Tuesday. Like it happens all the time. You keep moving. Mealtime. Again. Same stew. Same bread that's one bad day from being a weapon. You sit. You chew. You try not to think about what part of the animal the meat came from or which animal. Someone says it's horse. Someone else says it's rat. You don't ask. You just hope it's not someone you knew. The tea is hot and bitter and strong enough to strip paint. You drink it anyway. Because it's the only thing down here that tastes like anything. You clean. Everything. Every day. Even though it never looks clean. The brass? Tarnished. The floors? Filthy. The air? Forget it. But you scrub. You polish. You mop. Because that's the only thing standing between this place and total collapse. And it doesn't matter how hard you scrub, the rust always wins. There's a saying below deck. The sea eats steel and the ship eats men. You don't laugh at it anymore. Because it's not a joke. It's a fact. Your bunkmate Davies from Manchester, he's been coughing. Not just a tickle. The kind of cough that sounds like he's trying to hack out part of his soul. He hides it during roll call, smiles too wide, drinks water constantly. But at night you hear it. Wet, deep, terrible. You tell him to see the medic. He shakes his head. He'll quarantine me. So? Davis smiles. That's where they put the ones who don't come back. You stop asking. The hallway outside your bunk floods twice this week. A pipe burst. Then a toilet backed up. You don't know which one was worse. The water's ankle deep. Smells like oil, piss and sadness. You wade through it with a mop and a blank stare. Someone slips, lands hard, doesn't get up right away. No one laughs. Because everyone knows you're next. During your short break, if you can call it that, you sit by the lower hatch, just to feel the cooler air. And you watch, not the sea, not the sky, the crew. Everyone's tired. Everyone's pale. Everyone looks older than their age. There's a 19-year-old kid in charge of depth charges. He's got hands like a 60-year-old farmer. Calloused, burned, bent. He tells you a story about a guy who didn't fasten the rack right. Charges rolled, cracked open, flooded the bay with explosive powder. Cleaned it up with their shirts, he says. Then had to burn the shirts. You ask what happened to the guy. He shrugs. Went overboard. Maybe fell. Maybe didn't. You stop asking questions again. Mail call is the only time anyone smiles. If your name's called, you're somebody. If it's not, you're a ghost. You get a letter from home. It's damp, smudged, smells faintly of lavender and smoke. Your mum's handwriting, she's worried. She says to eat more. She says the dog misses you. She says be safe. You fold the letter and tuck it into your chest pocket like armour. Davies gets nothing. He doesn't say anything. He just watches you read yours like it's a fire he can't sit near. You offer to let him read it. He shakes his head. Wouldn't feel right, he says. Later that night you see him reading someone else's letter. Not stealing, just reading it, out loud, in a whisper. Because sometimes words are the only thing keeping you here. You hear screaming from the stern. Not combat, not drills. Panic. You rush aft, slip twice, smack your elbow on a pipe. You reach the bulkhead. A man's arm is caught in a gear. It's twisted, purple, the bones visible. Someone's trying to shut down the machinery. Someone else is yelling for the medic. The guy with the arm, he's not yelling anymore. He's just breathing fast. Too fast, like he's trying to outrun the pain. The engine finally slows. The gear doesn't. It takes another chunk before it stops. The man passes out. You help carry him to sick bay. They cover his arm with a blanket. One of the nurses whispers, "He's lucky." You don't agree. Not even a little. Back in your bunk, you lie still. The ship groans again, always with that same low, knowing tone. You stare at the ceiling and try to remember what stars look like. You think of home, the porch, the fields, the sound of wind through trees. Here, wind doesn't exist. Just pipes, screams, orders. You turn on your side. Davies is asleep, snoring softly, still coughing between breaths. You watch him for a second, then close your eyes. You don't dream. Not anymore. Because dreams are a luxury. And down here, you don't get luxuries. You get steel. You get noise. You get through one day at a time. Smell hits first. Always. Not bullets, not screams, not even orders. Smell. That's what tells you war is close. It's subtle at first. Just a shift in the air. Oil mixed with something sharp metallic. Burnt. Familiar but wrong. The kind of smell that makes your stomach turn before your brain catches up. You wake to it. Davies is already sitting up in his bunk, eyes wide, sniffing the air like a hunted animal. You ask, "What is that?" He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. You already know. Battle stations. The klaxon howls, not a ring, not a bell. A howl, like the ship itself is screaming. You grab your gear, fumble with your boots, slam your head against the pipes in your rush. Doesn't matter, you're moving now. The corridors are chaos. Men running, shouting, tripping over each other in too tight spaces. No one speaks calmly. There's no such thing as calm anymore. You reach your position forward bulkhead near one of the secondary batteries. You're not gun crew, not officially. You're backup. You're ballast with a pulse. You're here to carry ammo, fetch water, relay orders. You're here to keep breathing while other men do the dying. And that smell, it's stronger now. Thick, sharp, alive. Burned oil, singed rope, hot metal, and old fear. You didn't know fear had a smell. Now it's in your lungs. Every breath tastes like someone just fired a cannon inside your chest. The gun crews are already sweating. They load the breech, swing the barrel, brace. There's no banter, no jokes, not today. Today's too real. Then the first shot. Not yours, theirs. It lands a few hundred meters off the bow. You feel the impact before you hear it. A thud that punches through the hull and up through your feet. Water erupts in the distance, a geyser of white spray. Too close. You wait for the next one. And it comes. Closer. The ship lists slightly, not a lot, but enough. Someone above you shouts coordinates. The gun captain adjusts. Ready. Fire. Your cannon speaks. It's not a sound. It's violence. The deck shudders. Your teeth rattle. Your heart stumbles. The smell changes again. Now it's cordite, hot, bitter, instant. The first time you smell it, you gag. The second time, you recognize it. The third time, you know you're in a real fight. They fire back. Harder. A shell hits aft somewhere near the stern. The floor jerks sideways. You slam into the bulkhead. Someone screams. Not from fear from shrapnel. You scramble to your feet, run toward the noise, smoke. Blood. A twisted door frame that used to be a corridor. A man stumbles out, clutching his shoulder. His arm hangs like laundry, red and wrong. You grab him, pull him toward the medics. He's muttering something over and over. They knew we were here. You don't ask who they is. You already know. Another shell hits. This one's closer, too close. The lights flicker, the ship groans. The kind of sound a building makes before it falls. You brace yourself against the bulkhead. The air is hot, thick. Everything smells like burnt metal and regret as you reach the upper deck. Just a peek, just a second. You see her, an enemy cruiser. Grey, sleek, fast. Firing again. You duck. Just in time. The blast doesn't hit you, but it might as well. You feel it ripple the air. You feel it in your spine. That's what fear really is, not what you feel. What you become. They call damage control to Deck 4. You're closest. You run. Deck 4 is fire. Actual fire. Smoke pours from a ruptured pipe. Oil slicks the floor. A body lies face down in the corner, too still, too quiet. You don't check him. You can't. You find the extinguisher, spray, shout. Try to hold your breath. You're not trained for this. Not really. You just hope. The fire dies down. Barely. Your hands shake, your knees knock. And still, you keep moving. Back on station. You're handed another shell. Heavy. Warm. Screaming silent death. You pass it down the line. Another. Another. The gun fires, recoils, reloads, fires again. Every shot is a gamble. Every second a negotiation with death. And through it all, that smell stays with you. Now it's mixed with sweat, blood. Something worse. Someone next to you vomits. Doesn't stop moving, just leans, pukes, and keeps going. You do the same. Because stopping is what gets you killed. The enemy retreats. Not far, not forever. Just enough to reload. You slump against the wall. Breathe deep. Instantly regret it. Your lungs burn. Your eyes water. Your hands are black with soot and someone else's blood. The officer walks past. Get ready. They're not done. You nod. Even though you're not ready. You'll never be ready. Hours pass, or minutes. Time melts in combat. It's either always too slow or gone. The gun's quiet. The klaxon stops. The silence is louder than the noise. You sit in the hallway, wipe your face. Look at your shirt, half burned, half soaked. You've been in a battle. You've been inside a monster. And it changed you. Later that night, back in your bunk, you lie awake. You can still smell it. Cordite. Oil. Flesh. You close your eyes. You still smell it. The inside of war. Not glory. Just smoke and blood and steel. Some days nothing happens. No sirens, no screaming, no shells. Just nothing. And that's when it gets dangerous. Because when nothing's happening, your brain fills in the blanks. You wake up to silence. Not peace silence. The kind that feels like something's watching you through the pipes. No one's yelling. The engines are steady. Even the air feels still, like it's holding its breath. You roll out of bed and hit the floor wrong. Your ankle protests. Doesn't matter. You stand. You move. Because movement keeps the thoughts away. Breakfast is gruel. It tastes like wallpaper paste and sadness. You eat it anyway because it's warm. Because it's routine. Because it's something. Across from you, a guy named Murphy is sketching on a scrap of paper. He doesn't look up when you sit. Just keeps drawing. You sneak a glance. It's a woman. Maybe his wife. Maybe someone he made up. Either way, she looks like the only soft thing left in the world. You nod. He doesn't nod back. After breakfast they call a drill. Battle stations. No sirens. No smoke. Just practice. You don't want to move. No one does. But you go. Because drills aren't optional. You grab your gear, hustle down a corridor slick with condensation, past a guy painting over rust for the 4th time this week. He sees you, mouths the word, pointless. You agree. You reach your position. Same post, same wall, same dents in the floor. A petty officer walks by barking commands like this is real. Like this is life or death. It's not. But you pretend. You load a fake shell. You shout confirmation. You spin a wheel that isn't connected to anything anymore. It's all theatre. A dress rehearsal for a play that's already had its opening night and closed in tragedy. After an hour, someone blows a whistle. Stand down. You collapse on a crate and stare at the ceiling. It's dripping again. The ceiling always drips. You've started naming the drops. That one. That's Tony. He falls every 6 seconds and never learns. You realise you're going insane. But slowly, politely, just enough to function. Later, it's lifeboat drill. Everyone lines up like school children. Put on your life vest. Count off. Climb into the raft. The raft's dry rotted. You know it. Everyone knows it. If this ship sinks, that thing will fold like paper in a thunderstorm. You don't say anything, because nobody says anything anymore. After lifeboats, it's damage control. You're handed a fire hose. No water today. Just pretend. Fire in the boiler room, someone shouts. You jog. You aim. You squirt air at invisible flames. Everyone nods like that'll matter when something actually catches. You remember the last fire, the heat, the screams, the guy who didn't come back. You remember what burnt flesh smells like. You drop the hose and walk away. No one stops you. You get 2 hours off. You sit below deck and stare at your boots. You wonder if the smell coming from them is rot or just your soul escaping slowly. You write a letter. You start with "Dear Mum" and then nothing. You stare at the page. The pencil feels heavy. Words feel fake. Eventually you write, "Still here, not dead yet, food's bad, ship's worse. I miss trees." Then you fold it and hide it under your mattress. Not because you're ashamed, because there's no one to send it to. Later, more drills. Gas mask training. You forgot how claustrophobic it feels, how the rubber pulls at your skin, how the straps dig into your scalp, how every breath sounds like it's been filtered through nightmares. You practice sealing it. Practice holding your breath. Practice pretending it'll help. The guy passes out mid-drill. Hits the floor hard. Nobody moves right away. We've all learned that sometimes people just stop. The medic checks him. He's breathing, just stress. You envy him. After that, it's gunnery again. Not real fire, just exercises. Someone pulls targets on a wire across the bow. You fire blanks. The cannon jumps anyway. The smell of cordite hits your throat like a dare. Someone misses the target. The officer yells, as if the water cares where the shells land, as if the enemy will be so courteous as to sail in straight lines. You reload. Fire again. Watch the splash. Repeat. Every action feels like pantomime, but you do it anyway, because you're too scared not to. Dinner. More stew. Still grey. Still lumpy. Someone at the next table makes a joke about how it used to be soup before it died. You laugh, because laughing is free. Davies coughs again. He's paler than yesterday. He says, I had a dream last night. You ask, good? He nods. I was in a field, big one, yellow flowers, no fences, no noise. You ask, what happened? He smiles. Woke up. You nod. That's the punchline every time. That night you lie in your bunk and try to sleep. It's quiet. Too quiet. No drills. No screaming. No alarms. Just the ship breathing. Just the steel settling. Just your own heartbeat ticking down the hours. You close your eyes. Then you hear a bell. Drill? No. Not this time. General quarters. Real this time. You sit up. Heartbeat sprinting. The real thing's here. But part of you wishes it wasn't. Part of you would rather go back to drills. Because at least drills are fake, war isn't. You don't really walk into the gun deck. You descend into it, like a miner or a grave robber. The stairs are steep. The air changes halfway down. Cool becomes hot. Damp becomes wet. Oxygen becomes noise. You reach the deck, and the sound hits first. Not yelling, not machinery. It's a deep hum like the ship is muttering something to itself. A slow, heavy rhythm metal breathing. And in the middle of it all, the guns. They're not just big. They're impossible. The kind of size that makes your brain reject what your eyes are seeing. 30 feet long, barrels thick enough to crawl into. Steel monsters chained to the ship like beasts too dangerous to trust. You thought guns were weapons. These are statements. They say, we don't negotiate. The crew's already at it. Bare-chested, grim-faced, soaked in sweat and grease. One man to load the shell, one to ram it home, one to set the charge. Everyone moves like they've rehearsed this in their sleep because they have. You just watch, because you're not part of it yet. You're still new, still in the way. Still someone they'll shout at if you touch the wrong lever or blink too loud. You press your back against the bulkhead. Try to be invisible. It doesn't work. Oi, someone barks. Think this deck's for sightseeing. You snap to attention. No, sir. He's not a sir. Just a gunner, maybe 30, missing an eyebrow. He points to a crate. Ammo run, now. The shells aren't light. They're coffin-sized chunks of solid hate. Each one weighs as much as a man and kills more than most men ever will. You and two others haul one across the deck. Your arms burn. Your back screams. You slip once, the shell wobbles. You pray. Not to God. To the shell. Please don't fall. It doesn't. You place it near the breach, step back. Wipe your face. Realise you're shaking. You're not tired. You're scared. Because once the gun's loaded, everyone changes. The crew stops joking. The officer stops barking. Even the ship seems to hold its breath. Brace, someone yells. Everyone ducks, covers ears, opens mouth to protect from the pressure. You do the same. And then fire. Not a bang, not a boom. Something worse. It doesn't sound like sound. It feels like your chest just got punched by a god. The floor jumps, the walls shake, your brain skips a beat. You open your eyes. There's smoke, heat, The smell of cordite and sweat and burnt paint. You check your ears. Still there. Barely. They fire again. And again. Each shot is a thunderclap inside a steel coffin. You lose count. You lose hearing. The world becomes rhythm. Load, ram, charge, fire. Load, ram, charge, fire. You carry more shells. Your fingers bleed. Your arms go numb. You stop feeling anything except the weight. You stop thinking about the enemy. Because down here, there is no enemy. There's just the gun. Someone drops a shell. It rolls 6 inches. Everyone freezes. 6 inches, that's the difference between another breath and becoming a stain. The officer steps in, eyes cold. He doesn't yell. He just stares at the kid who dropped it. Then he says, "Do it again, and I'll throw you overboard before the shell gets the chance." The kid nods, swallows, picks up the shell. The gun fires again. Later, you get a moment's rest. You sit on the floor, lean against the bulkhead. Your shirt's soaked, your hands tremble. You're handed a tin cup of water. It tastes like copper and diesel. You drink it anyway, because thirst doesn't get picky. A voice beside you. "First time?" You nod. The man smiles a cracked, crooked thing. "You'll get used to it," he says. Then he adds, "Or you won't. Either way, you'll keep doing it." You stand again. The officer points to the hoist. Time to load the next crate. You don't complain. You don't groan. You don't think. You just move. Like the gun wants you to. At night, your ears still ring. The firing doesn't stop when you sleep. It just moves inside your head. Your dreams are loud. Your muscles twitch. You wake up thinking someone yelled fire when all they said was lights out. You rub your shoulder. It's bruised from hauling steel. Your palms are blistered. Your boots feel 2 sizes too small. And still, you'll be back on the gun deck tomorrow. You whisper, "I survived." But the ship whispers back, "Not yet." You think you know loud. You think it's yelling, cannons, thunder. Maybe a shell landing near your post. Maybe an officer screaming in your ear during battle drills. But you don't know loud. Not yet. Not until you live on the gun deck during sustained fire. Not until the ship becomes one enormous organ of noise, each part screaming in concert, without rest, without rhythm, without mercy. It starts small. Just a hum in your ears, the kind you think will pass. Then a throb behind your eyes. Pressure, like altitude sickness, like your skull is trying to remember how silence felt and can't. Then the shots begin again. Boom, pause, boom, pause. Each one hits you like a slap. Not just sound force, you feel it in your teeth, your chest, your spine. Your ribs vibrate with every shot. Your knees tremble long after the cannon falls quiet. The air shakes. You shake. You wear cotton in your ears now. It helps for the first 10 minutes. Then it soaks through. Sweat, oil, noise itself. Until it's just damp silence wrapped in pain. You stop using it. Because eventually, it doesn't make a difference. There's a man named Greaves, older, deaf as stone, still works the loader's crank like it owes him money. He yells everything even though no one can hear him and he can't hear himself. "Loud enough for you, boy." He laughs after each firing. You nod, you smile, you don't answer. Because what's the point? You're already half deaf and he's already past caring. He tells you something, later mouthing the words slowly. It's not the sound that breaks you, it's the not sound that comes after. You don't understand? Not yet. You go back to your bunk. Sleep, maybe. Try, anyway. It's quiet down there, supposedly. But your ears ring. Not like a bell. like a knife dragged across metal over and over again, high-pitched, relentless, eternal. You close your eyes. Still there. You press your fingers against your ears. Still there. You whisper, make it stop. It doesn't. The ship creaks, pipes groan, boots stomp past. Even that small noise hurts now. Your skull feels thin, brittle. Like one wrong clang might shatter it. Someone drops a wrench in the corridor. You jump like you've been shot. Your bunkmate looks at you, nods, doesn't say a word. He gets it. You wonder if this is what shell shock sounds like. Before the tremors, before the stare. Just this whine in your blood that never goes away. You're back on the gun deck the next day. More firing. You knew that, but today it feels heavier. The guns sound different. Not louder, meaner. Like they're tired of being ignored and want to remind you they run this ship. The officer yells something. You nod like you heard it. You didn't. You just do what you always do now. Watch the others. Move when they move. Fire when they fire. Duck when they duck. The gun recoils, slams back. The deck shakes. Your vision swims. You blink. Your hearing dips, like someone threw a wool blanket over your brain. Then it pops back, like surfacing from water. You stumble, sit. No one notices, because they're all doing the same thing, surviving one noise at a time. Later, they test the emergency siren. You cover your ears. Too slow. It shrieks high, shrill, perfect torture. You fall to one knee. Greaves helps you up. He's laughing again. That's the sound of safety, boy. You believe him, but it still feels like your skull's going to crack in half. You try to write a letter that night. You manage. The guns are louder than thought. The silence is worse. Then you stop. Because the ringing makes it impossible to concentrate. You scratch out the line. Try again. Your hand shakes. You stop. You tear the page in half and shove it under your bunk. You get 20 minutes on deck later that week. Fresh air. Clouds. The sky so big it almost makes you cry. You breathe in. The salt. The wind. But you can still hear it. The guns. Even though they're not firing. You hear them in your bones. You rub your ears. Still ringing. You wonder if it'll ever stop. You know it won't. Davis says something funny at chow. You miss it. Everyone laughs. You fake it. He leans in, says it again. You hear maybe half. You nod anyway. He grins, puts a hand on your shoulder. And for a moment you almost forget the ringing. Almost. But that night, you dream of cannon fire. Except it's not a dream. You wake up to a test shot unannounced. The ship jumps, the deck groans. You fall out of bed. You scream maybe just inside. The noise wraps around you like a net of thunder. You press your hands to your ears. Nothing changes. Because the noise isn't outside anymore. It's inside you. That's what Grease meant. It's not the volume, not the blast. It's the echo that keeps living in your head long after the war's quiet. It eats your thoughts. Chews on your memories. And when the real silence finally comes, you won't recognize it. Because all you'll hear is the ghost of gunfire. You're not scheduled for the boiler room. But that doesn't matter. Down here, need outranks everything rank orders sleep. And right now, they need more hands feeding the fire. Someone's down. Heat stroke. Or something worse. You're next in line. Lucky you. They don't warn you. They just open the hatch and push you in. The air inside is a wall. A wave of heat that slams into you, thick and wet and furious. Your lungs seize. Your eyes water. Your body screams, "Get out!" But you stay, because no one walks back out unless they're carried. The floor sweats. The walls drip. Everything is slick with oil, with water, with human effort. The fire glows deep red through the furnace grates, like the heart of something living, something angry. You've seen fire before, but not like this. This fire doesn't flicker. It growls. The shovel's heavier than it looks. The coal's black, sharp, jagged. Feels like punishment. Probably is. You load your first scoop, toss it into the open furnace. The flame roars, like it's mad you didn't come faster. You stumble back. A man yells something, probably "keep going." You do. Shovel, lift, toss, again, and again, and again. The rhythm is brutal. Worse than the guns. Worse than the drills. Because there's no break of wire or every second you stop, the fire dies. The engine slows, and the whole ship, all 20,000 tons of her, feels it. You lose track of time. Minutes blur into pain. Your skin turns slick, then sticky, then dry. That's how you know you're in danger when you stop sweating. Your breath shortens. Your chest tightens. You inhale, and it feels like someone poured gravel into your lungs. Because it's not just heat. It's coal dust floating in the air, coating your teeth, sticking to your throat. Every breath you take, another handful of poison. You see a man pass out across from you. He drops mid-shovel. No warning, no cry, just gone. Two others drag him to the side, dump a bucket of water on him, slap his face. He doesn't move. They don't stop working. You don't either. Because the fire doesn't care who's breathing. It just wants coal. The chief engineer appears, red-faced, shirtless, yelling something about pressure, PSI, safety margins. You don't catch it. All you hear is faster. So you go faster. Even though your arms feel like noodles. Even though your brain is melting. Faster, faster. Until the world becomes a blur of black, red and pain. At some point, someone hands you a canteen. The water inside is warm, tastes like iron and rubber. It's the best thing you've ever drunk. You don't even stop to thank them. You just chug, gasp, keep going. Hours pass, or maybe decades. Your uniform's soaked. Your boots are squelching. Your skin stings in places you didn't know could sting. Someone yells, "Shift change." You want to cheer. You want to cry. You do neither. You just hand off your shovel. Stumble to the ladder. Climb, one rung at a time. Each step is a war. You reach the top. Collapse. Outside the boiler room, the air feels freezing. It's not. It's just not hell, and that's enough. You sit, head between knees. Cough black phlegm into your hand. It shimmers in the dim light. Like oil, like something wrong. Someone claps you on the back. You did all right, they say. You can't answer, because your throat's on fire. But you nod, because that's all you've got left. You drag yourself to the head. Strip off your undershirt. It peels away from your skin. Slick with sweat, soot and melted willpower. You wipe your face. Your towel comes back black. You cough again, harder. Your ribs ache from the force. Davies sees you later, says, "You look like death." You shrug. He offers you half a biscuit. You take it. It tastes like dust, but at least it's dry dust. That night you lie in your bunk and listen to your lungs whistle. Each breath rasps. Not loud, not sharp, just wrong. You try to sleep, but you dream in heat. Flames behind your eyes. Ash in your mouth. Men shoveling forever into a fire that never goes out. You wake up choking. still coughing. Still breathing, technically. The next morning, you check your throat in a mirror. It's red, raw, lined with soot. Your eyes are bloodshot. You look older, like the fire tried to steal years from you and got away with a few. You hear they pulled 3 men out of the boiler room yesterday. All unconscious, one still in the infirmary. You're not surprised. You're just glad it wasn't you. This time. Later, the officer hands you a shovel again. You flinch. He laughs. Not today. You nod. Not today. But soon. Because the fire never sleeps. And it always wants more. There's a different kind of fear that sets in when the sea comes inside the ship. Not the theatrical kind, not guns or fires or sirens screaming through steel corridors, but the cold, creeping realization that what's meant to stay outside has found a way in. No blast, no flash, just water, slowly and steadily, rising where it doesn't belong. It started with a vibration. You felt it in your boots before you heard anything, a dull tremor running through the floor like the ship had hiccuped. No one said anything at first. That's the rule aboard. Don't speak it unless it's on fire. The second rule is, never panic where someone can see you. So you kept eating, kept chewing your tasteless stew, pretending the floor wasn't groaning underfoot in a way it hadn't the day before. Then came the list, a slight tilt. Just a couple degrees to starboard. Barely noticeable unless you were standing near a loose crate or trying to pour tea. By the time the klaxon sounded, you already knew something was wrong. Emergency stations. But this time it wasn't enemy fire. It wasn't a drill. This was internal, somewhere deep in the belly of the beast. Something had given way. You were assigned to a damage control team, not because you were trained, but because you were breathing. That's the only real requirement in moments like this. You followed the others, down 2 decks, past the galley and the engine room, into the places they never show on recruitment posters. The air changed as you descended. It grew colder, denser, smelled wrong like seawater and metal fatigue. You rounded a corner and there it was, lapping gently at the floor plates. An inch, maybe 2. Not enough to make anyone scream, but you could see where it was coming from and that was enough to make your mouth go dry. A crack in the bulkhead, hairline but real, steady and relentless. Water poured through it in a thin stream, fast as a running tap. Not gushing, worse. Because it meant it was inside the hull, pressing in, pushing through, and it wasn't supposed to be. The chief damage officer barked orders and shoved a clamp into your hands. It was rusted, probably older than the ship itself, and it didn't fit right. You jammed it over the leak anyway, hands trembling, bolts refusing to catch. They brought out wedges and rubber and everything else that usually works. It didn't. You started bailing, passing buckets in a desperate rhythmless chain. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Then the water rose from your boots to your shins. No one said it, but everyone knew you were below the waterline now. If this compartment went, the whole ship wouldn't sink. Just this section. Just the unlucky ones. You slipped once, fell hard against the bulkhead, water rushing into your collar. It was shockingly cold. And suddenly you understood something simple and terrifying. This wasn't like fire or bullets. This wasn't fast. This was the sea, moving in slow, methodical certainty, filling each space with indifference. Someone shouted from the next room over more water. Another leak. You moved with the others, sloshing through rising flood, ankles numb, legs soaked, gear clanking and useless. You carried nothing that could hold back the Atlantic. It kept coming. After nearly an hour, they sealed the compartment. Not fixed sealed, abandoned. Whatever was in there, supplies, tools, maybe someone's bunk was now part of the ocean. They locked it off like a tomb. Back on the main deck, no one spoke about it. The officers moved on to inspections. The crew returned to pretending. The galley kept serving mush. But every man who'd stood in that water walked a little slower. Every one of them listened to the hull a little more closely. You started hearing creaks that had always been there, but now they meant something. That night, your boots stayed wet. You hung your socks from a steam pipe and hoped for the best. The air smelled faintly of mildew now. Something had changed. You didn't need anyone to tell you. Davies didn't say much either. He just looked at you, then at the floor and muttered, "It's not supposed to come in." You nodded, because it wasn't. And now it had. There's a special kind of silence that only exists at sea after midnight. Not real silence, the engines still churn, the hull still creaks, and there's always a pipe hissing or a valve rattling somewhere below, but a kind of hush that sits you over the ship like a damp wool blanket. It's thick, heavy, not comforting, and when you're on watch, alone, it starts to feel like the ship is trying to keep secrets from you. Your shift started at 0200, graveyard. You got maybe 3 hours of sleep, if you can call it that, before the petty officer shook you awake and told you to get moving. Your body protested every step toward the hatch. Your bones felt cold before you even got outside, but you went because refusing isn't an option. Orders are law and watch is sacred. If something happens during your shift, it's on you. Doesn't matter if you're half asleep or half dead. You're the eyes, the ears, the human warning system. It's darker than you expected topside. The moon is hiding behind a thick layer of cloud, and the stars are faint pinpricks, barely enough to light the deck. The ship has gone into blackout mode, no lamps, no lanterns, no glowing dials left uncovered. Nothing visible to the horizon. You know the reason, submarines. Silent, slow, and deadly. They watch for light like wolves scenting blood. One flicker, and you might wake up underwater or not wake up at all. You make your rounds along the deck. The steel is slick beneath your boots, cold as sin. Your breath clouds in the air before you, vanishing as fast as it comes. Every few feet you stop, listen, scan the water. You don't know what you're supposed to be looking for. Shadows? Periscopes? The glint of light off a torpedo wake? No one ever really explains it. They just tell you to look sharp and not fall overboard. The sea is black, not dark black. Like ink, thick and bottomless, stretching in every direction. There's no horizon, no frame of reference. The ship could be sitting still or sailing straight into oblivion, and you wouldn't know the difference. Every so often, a wave slaps the hull. The sound echoes up the superstructure, deep and sudden, like a breath being taken by something vast and unseen. The worst part is the stillness inside your own head. During the day there's noise to distract you, voices, drills, orders. But now it's just you and your thoughts, and they don't have anywhere else to go. You try not to think about home, but you do anyway. Your mum, probably asleep. Your sister, maybe waiting for your letter. The girl who kissed you goodbye and promised she'd write, but hasn't yet. You wonder if she's forgotten you already. You wouldn't blame her. Somewhere aft something clatters metal on metal. You freeze. Wait. Nothing follows. Just the steady drone of the turbines below. You keep walking, fingers grazing the cold rail as you round the rear turret. This gun looms above you like a sleeping giant. You know it could kill a cruiser with a single shot, but right now, it just feels like another weight pressing down on the deck. You see movement near the starboard ladder, just a flash. You stop, squint, but it's gone. Could have been a trick of the light, or maybe just your mind playing games. You've heard the stories. Watchmen seeing things, reporting ghost ships, faces in the mist. Sailors say the sea plays with you at night, that it tests you, that it whispers. You used to think it was nonsense. Now you're not so sure. Eventually you reach the bow and lean over the edge for a moment, staring into the black. The wind bites your cheeks, but you don't move. You feel small here, not just physically, but in the way a speck of dust might feel floating in a cathedral. The ocean doesn't care who you are or what you've done. It'll take you just the same. No name, no rank, no ceremony. You think about falling, not jumping, just slipping. A slick boot, a missed rail. 1 second you're here, the next you're gone. The ship wouldn't even stop. They can't, not for one man. The protocol says they mark your last known location, report it and keep going, you'd vanish, cold, alone, swallowed by a black world that doesn't remember what it eats. You pull yourself back, grip the rail harder, keep walking. Your relief doesn't come for another hour. You make the last circuit slower than the first. Your muscles are starting to stiffen. Your fingers ache. You count the paces between posts just to stay awake. 45 to the bow, 70 back to the turret, another 30 to the hatch. You know them now, like steps in a song. At last, another figure climbs out of the hatch. Thompson, pale-faced and yawning. He gives you a nod and takes his post without a word. You hand over the logbook. He signs it. The ritual complete, you step back into the dark interior. Inside, it's not much warmer. The corridor lights are covered with red lenses, just enough glow to see, but not enough to ruin night vision. You walk quietly, the sound of your boots muffled against the steel grating. Every so often you pass another man returning from the head, finishing a late task, or simply unable to sleep. No one talks. Night aboard is sacred. Break the silence and the whole place seems to shudder. Back at your bunk, you peel off your coat, then your sweater. Your fingers are numb, your socks are damp again. You sit, staring at nothing for a long while. Davies is asleep, curled under his blanket, breathing heavy. You lie down. The mattress is cold, your skin prickles, your joints ache. But the worst part is the ringing not in your ears, but in your mind. The afterimage of darkness. The weight of everything you didn't see. You close your eyes, hoping for sleep. You tell yourself it's over. Just a shift. Just another round. But you know the truth. The night didn't pass you by. It just let you through. You hoped they'd forgotten about you, or that someone else would be picked this time. You even made yourself small in the mess hall, shoulders hunched, eyes down, trying to blend in with the steel and the steam. But they called your name anyway. No explanation. Just a curt nod toward the lower decks. Boiler crew rotation. Time to shovel again. And you knew, without needing to be told, that the fire never forgives a late arrival. You dress slow, not because you're lazy, but because everything hurts now. Your back, your wrists, even the skin around your ribs feels bruised from the inside. When you slip on your boots, the fabric pulls tight around feet still raw from the last shift. You walk stiffly down the corridor, past other men who pretend not to look. They've either already done their time or they know they're next. The descent is worse than the memory. Each step into the lower decks is like a breath into a furnace. You smell it before you feel it: burnt oil, wet metal, sweat cooked into rust. Then the heat hits you, not in the face but in the chest, heavy and full. You try not to breathe through your nose. It doesn't help. The air down here doesn't care which way you take it in. It owns you either way. Inside the fire room, the glow is alive again. No flicker, no gentle hum, just the steady pulse of flame behind every surface, like the ship itself is running on anger. The noise is louder today, not because anything has changed, because your body is weaker, your nerves more frayed. Every hiss from a pipe sounds like a threat. Every clang of a shovel lands too close to the edge of panic. You're handed your tool without a word. It's still warm from the last guy's hands. The coal bin gapes open beside you, black and bottomless. The furnace mouths across the room roar each time they're fed, and the steel doors rattle from the pressure. You glance around and recognize the same tired eyes as last time. Hollow stares, cracked lips, movements that aren't really decisions anymore, just instinct in uniform. Then it starts again. Shovel, lift, toss, step, repeat. Each movement pulls something from you that you didn't know you had left. Your shoulders burn almost immediately. The sweat comes faster than you remember, soaking your shirt within minutes. It drips into your eyes, stings, blurs your vision. You don't wipe it away. There's no time. There's only the shovel and the flame and the relentless pace of survival. You learn quickly not to stop. There's no break schedule, no rotation board. The only way out is down into exhaustion, down into collapse. And until that happens, you keep feeding the furnace like a penance, like a ritual. You lose track of how many times you've shoveled. 10, 100, 1,000. You stop counting. Because counting leads to hope, and hope is too fragile a thing to carry in this place. At some point, the heat turns into pain. You try to push through it, like last time, but this time is worse. This time your body isn't just protesting, it's threatening. You drop the shovel for a second and bend over, hands on your knees, lungs fighting for air that won't come. The air's too thick, too poisoned with smoke and floating grit. Your breathing becomes shallow, more of the gasp than a breath, and your vision narrows. You hear voices, but they sound far away. A hand grabs your arm and steadies you. No words, just pressure, steady and grounding. You nod once, barely, then force your back upright and pick up the shovel again. The others keep working. No one laughs, no one pities, because pity means they see you, and seeing means remembering, and remembering means you're not just fuel for the fire. The hours stretch longer than you thought possible. Time doesn't work in the boiler room. It bends, stretches, vanishes entirely. There's no clock, no sun, just the unchanging red glow of combustion. You try to think about anything else. Home, letters, the smell of grass. But the fire burns through memory too, until all you can focus on is the next shovelful. Eventually, someone shouts that the pressure's stable and the engine's ahead of schedule. You don't know what that means, but you hear the signal, the shift's ending. Your body wants to collapse right there on the metal floor. You ignore it and stumble out into the corridor, barely aware of your own feet. Your shirt clings to your back like it's been glued there. Your fingers won't uncurl from the shovel until someone pries it out of your grip. You find your way to a sink, splash water on your face, watch it run black. Your reflection in the grimy mirror barely looks human. Eyes bloodshot, cheeks sunken, face streaked with coal dust and exhaustion. You're not sure how long you stare at yourself, but someone pushes past you and the spell breaks. Back at your bunk, you don't undress, you don't speak. You just fall onto the mattress, still soaked, still trembling. Davies looks over at you from his bed, nods once. No words. He knows. You lie there in the dark, still tasting the smoke, still hearing the hiss of steam through burning pipes. The fire's behind you now for a while, but it left something inside you. Something that doesn't cool with sleep. Something that doesn't wash off with water. And tomorrow they'll feed it again. You get used to grime. Get used to oil on your hands, to rust in your boots, to food that tastes like cardboard soaked in seawater. You get used to the stench of unwashed bodies and the buzz of electricity always humming just under the floor. But what you don't get used to, what you never get used to, is the sight of blood on steel. It starts with a shout, not an order, not the usual bark of someone annoyed about a late shift or a busted pipe. This one cuts different. High, sharp, frantic. You freeze for a second, and in that second everything changes. The voices outside your compartment rise, converge. Heavy footfalls hammer the floor. The kind of noise that doesn't happen unless something has gone very, very wrong. You open the hatch and step out. The corridor is already crowded, men pressing toward the midship gun deck. Someone pushes past you, face pale, eyes wide, mouth opening and closing like he's still inside whatever just happened. You follow because not knowing is worse. Your body moves before your mind decides anything. It's not a fire, not an attack. The general alarm didn't sound, but there's a tension in the air, a kind of static charge you feel behind your eyes. When you reach the battery housing, you see it. The deck is wet, not with water, not with oil, blood. Bright, fresh, unmistakable. A wide streak of it smears across the floor like someone tried to crawl. A set of greasy boot prints cuts through the middle of it. You feel your stomach clench. Nobody's speaking now, they're just staring. There's a man on the ground. His name is Marlowe. You don't know him well. He worked the shell hoist on the starboard battery. He was quiet, clean. One of the few who still tried to shave every morning. Now he's on his back, his face turned to the side, mouth open, eyes blank. His leg has gone from the knee down. Someone kneels beside him, pressing a bandage to what's left. Another guy is wrapping a belt around Marlowe's thigh, pulling it so tight you can hear the skin tear. Blood pulses between their fingers anyway. It's not working. The limb is too far gone. You hear someone mutter, "Gear failure." Then someone else says it was the recoil arm, that it snapped, that it wasn't secured right, that someone forgot a pin. There's too much noise now, too many voices all saying different things, none of them certain. You don't care how it happened. You're just trying not to be sick. The medics arrive 5 minutes too late. One look, and they don't even bother with the stretcher. They cover Marlowe's face and leave the rest to the rest of you. You help clean, not because anyone asks you to, just because it has to be done. You grab a mop and a bucket and get to work. It's not like in the movies. The blood doesn't pool in perfect little circles. It smears. It clots. It mixes with the grease on the floor and turns into a thick, dark sludge that sticks to everything. The mop doesn't absorb it. It just pushes it around. You work anyway, not to clean it, just to make it go away. The silence is worse than the mess. No one speaks. You can hear the drag of the mop, the drip from the bucket, the groan of metal as the ship shifts ever so slightly beneath your feet. Someone drops a wrench. It clangs, loud as a gunshot. Everyone flinches. Later, the officer comes down and says it was a mechanical error. Says it's being logged. Says maintenance will check the rig again before next use. Then he tells everyone to return to their duties, like it didn't just happen, like Marlowe wasn't there 5 minutes ago. You return to your station, not because you want to, but because there's nowhere else to go. You run your hands over the equipment, the same levers, the same clamps, the same rusted fittings you trusted yesterday. Now they feel like traps. Davies says nothing that night. He just lies on his side, staring at the wall. You don't ask if he knew Marlowe. Doesn't matter. Everybody knew him now. The ship has a way of preserving death better than life. Marlowe will be a name muttered for weeks, a reference point, a warning. Then, eventually, just another story. Sleep doesn't come easy. When it does, it brings a dream not of the injury, not of the scream, but of the blood, spreading and spreading across the deck, slow and steady like it belonged there. You wake up sweating. Your shirt is damp. You're afraid to close your eyes again. In the morning, the gun fires as usual. Loud, repetitive, demanding. The deck crew moves like nothing happened. They joke. They yell. They pass ammunition and check pins and tighten bolts. You go through the emotions too, but everything's changed. The steel is colder, the barrel louder, the chain of command sharper. At lunch, you sit across from a boy who can't be older than 16. He's staring into his tea like it's got answers he can't find. You realise you've never heard him speak. He doesn't touch his food. You don't either. You both just sit there, chewing silence. Later that day, you walk past the spot where it happened. The floor's clean, now scrubbed to bare metal, no trace left. But you know where to look. You can still see it in your mind. The angle of the smear, the way it followed the grooves in the deck plating, you can't unsee that. You reach your bunk, sit, lean your back against the wall, your hands are still trembling, not much, just enough to make the dog tags around your neck jingle quietly against your chest. Marlowe's bunk is empty. His things are gone, like he was never there. But the deck remembers. You do too. It's barely visible at first. Just a thin grey line cutting across the horizon, easy to miss if you're not looking for it. You're up on deck on a rare off-shift, leaning against the rail with your jacket pulled tight and your collar turned up against the wind. The sun's low, bleeding light across the ocean, in long streaks of gold and rust, and everything feels too still, like the world is waiting to breathe again. You don't notice the smoke until one of the lookouts says something under his breath, a sharp note in his voice that cuts through the quiet. He doesn't yell, he just points. You follow his finger and there it is, faint, distant but real, a smear of ash rising where the sky should be clear. You watch it, squinting against the wind, heart crawling up toward your throat without permission. There are a dozen reasons smoke could be on the water, and none of them are good. Could be a supply ship burning. Could be another battleship taking damage. Could be a coastal town shelled into fire. Could be anything. The one thing it never is peace. By the time the officers spot it, the deck crew's already on edge. You can feel the ship shift beneath your feet, a slight tilt as the rudder adjusts, a change in the pitch of the engine as speed is increased. You glance back at the tower. Signal flags are going up. The rhythm of the ship changes entirely. No more idle footsteps. No more loose conversation. Everyone starts moving like pieces on a board that just tipped over. Word passes fast. Contact confirmed. Unidentified vessel, possibly multiple. Smoke continues to build on the horizon. Orders follow in short bursts. Check munitions. Ready the turrets. Engine room reports full steam within the hour. You're not supposed to be afraid of smoke. It's just particles, ash and oil and vapour. But when it rises from the sea, from nothing in wartime, it feels like a message. A warning sent across the water in a language you don't want to understand. And it keeps rising. Taller, darker, thicker. Not a plume anymore, a wall. You're sent below again. Gun position, same as always. You pass Davies in the corridor and he doesn't speak. Just hands you your gloves and keeps walking. His face is set like stone. That tells you more than words would. You pull the gloves on, not because you want to, but because it's easier to follow the ritual than to think about what the smoke might mean. Down in the battery housing, the tension has teeth. The gunnery crew is checking everything twice. Some things 3 times. Breeches are oiled, ammunition is stacked neatly. You take your spot and try to stay out of the way. You're not frontline gun crew, but you're part of the chain now. Pass this here. Haul that there. Watch for jams. Don't speak unless asked. Do not hesitate. The loudspeaker crackles. Range estimates, coordinates. The smoke wall is closer now. You can feel it in your lungs. Ears of steel. The air's changing, the taste of it, the temperature. The kind of change that happens before something breaks. Someone says they saw masts through the haze. Another says it's a decoy. You don't offer an opinion. You don't know what you're looking at, only that it's coming toward you, and that your ship, your enormous steel-skinned monster, is turning toward it with purpose. When the first shell is fired, it isn't yours. It's distant, muffled, not yet in range, but you feel it all the same, a low boom rolling across the waves and echoing in your bones. Everyone freezes for a second. Then the officer calls for readiness. Guns up, eyes forward. No one speaks again. The ship responds with power. Turrets begin to track. Elevation and direction are adjusted. You help slide shells into position. Your arms strain under the weight, but you've done this enough now that you don't stumble. The gun fires. Once. Twice. The world shakes. The echo screams through the corridor like a beast let loose. The smoke is thicker now, the horizon's gone, there's only steel, ash and fire. The water near the ship begins to erupt, geysers of sea from enemy shots that fall short, but not by much. You grip the nearest rail and press your shoulder to the wall. The next volley lands closer. Metal screams above. Shrapnel slams into the upper deck. You hear someone shout for a medic, but the voice is already receding. Your turret fires again and again. You feed the beast because it's all you can do. Every shell you pass down the line is a question you ask of the other ship. Are you faster? Are you better? Can you survive one more hit? Then, finally, you see the outline through the smoke. A shape. Large. Enemy battleship. No markings you recognize. Maybe German. Maybe Austro-Hungarian. Doesn't matter. It's armed, armoured, and already bleeding from the sides. Your shots landed. Some of them anyway. The sea between the ships churns with chaos now. Water spouts rise and vanish. Fire lights up the smoke from underneath. It turns orange, then black, then orange again. You keep working, keep passing shells. Your muscles burn, your ears ring, your eyes water from smoke that found its way inside despite the bulkheads. You don't know how long it lasts. When the ceasefire comes, no one hears it. It just happens, a lull, a breath. A moment where no one fires, You slump against the wall, blinking, trying to figure out if the fight is over or just paused. Eventually word comes down, enemy ship turning away, smoke increasing, no visible signs of pursuit. Some cheer, some claps where they stand, you just breathe. Not deeply, the smoke's still too thick for that, just enough to keep standing. Topside, the sky's a different colour now. Orange and grey smudged together like a dirty canvas. The smoke wall drifts and curls, revealing wreckage in the distance. You think you see flames on the horizon. Maybe theirs, maybe someone else's. You don't go topside to watch. You stay in the gun room, wiping sweat from your face, your hands blackened with soot and powder. You sit on a crate and stare at nothing, your ears still ring, your skin still shakes. Later the officer comes by, says the enemy retreated, says the damage was minimal, says good work, but he doesn't look anyone in the eyes. That night the smoke lingers. Even below deck it seeps in through vents and cracks, clinging to your blanket, your clothes, your lungs. You lie in your bunk and stare at the ceiling, imagining flames on the water, ships in silhouette, and a world where the horizon always burns. You never intended to spend time in the engine room. It wasn't your assignment, wasn't your station, wasn't part of your rotation. But one evening after mess, you found yourself wandering not out of curiosity, not even boredom, but something more instinctual, kind of magnetic pull maybe, a need to be near something loud enough to drown your thoughts. The entrance is marked with the same warning placards you see near anything important. Danger, ear protection required, authorized personnel only, but nobody stops you. Not here. Not now. The passage narrows as you descend. The heat creeps up first, then the vibration. The further you go, the more your boots hum against the steel. It's like the ship has a heartbeat. Low, powerful, inhuman. You step through the final hatch and it hits you all at once. The engine room is alive in a way the rest of the ship isn't. It breathes with pressure and purpose. Pistons rise and fall with mechanical grace. Pipes hiss and groan. A wall of gauges stares back at you, each dial twitching like nervous eyes. It's hot, humid and noisy, but it doesn't feel chaotic. It feels ordered. Angry, yes, but in control. There's a man leaning over a pump unit to your left, shirt tied around his waist, skin slick with sweat. You recognise him, sort of. Fletcher, one of the engineers, always smells faintly of diesel and iron. He looks up, sees you standing there and doesn't yell, just nods toward the bench near the bulkhead. You sit without a word. The bench is warm, vibrating slightly. It's like sitting on the edge of a volcano that someone bolted shut. Didn't peg you for the engine type, Fletcher says, raising his voice over the drone of the machinery. You shrug. Needed to not think. He doesn't laugh, but his mouth twitches. This is the right place for that, he replies. Noise makes it hard to remember your own name. You glance around. There's something strangely comforting about the size of it. All the towering turbines, the endless loops of cable, the gears and chains and valves. You're used to tight spaces, to low ceilings and bunks stacked like graves. Here, everything is huge, loud, indifferent. It reminds you that you're small, and somehow that makes it easier to breathe. Fletcher grabs a rag and wipes his face. You come from a town? Yeah, you say. You? He nods. Midlands, coal country. You think about that for a moment. Guess it makes sense you ended up here. He smirks. Didn't plan to. I was trying to avoid the trenches. Signed up for naval service thinking it'd be cleaner. Didn't figure on spending my war with one ear next to a boiler and the other next to a screaming exhaust vent. Better than a rifle in the mud. He doesn't answer right away. Just tosses the rag into a bucket and leans back against the wall, arms crossed. Sometimes I think about what happens if the engine stops, he says. Not because it's broken, just stops. Like it gives up. Like it decides, no more of this. What happens then? You look at the turbines, the giant rods turning in rhythm, the steam pressure gauge hovering at the edge of red. Then we sink, you say. Exactly, Fletcher replies, like you solved a riddle he didn't want to say out loud. And I think sometimes it's not a mechanical question. Not oil, not gears. Maybe it's just tired. Maybe it just wants to rest. You don't know what to say to that, so you just listen. The engine hisses. The gears click in protest. Somewhere deep in the heart of the machinery, something slams shut. Fletcher continues, quieter now, even though the room roars around you. I had a brother, infantry, Verdun. You nod. You know what's coming. Everyone's lost someone. It's not a question of if, just how recently. He wrote once, said the ground there was made of bodies and the mud was louder than the guns. Said it wasn't a battlefield. It was a grave pretending to be one. You glance down at your boots. The deck beneath you still vibrates, still moves. He didn't come back, you ask? No, lost in the churn. They said shelling made identification impossible, sent us back a button and half a belt buckle. He wipes his hands again, slower this time. I don't know what's worse, knowing he died or knowing no one really knows how. You want to say something comforting, something that would mean something. But what do you say to that? That he died for a cause? That he's a hero? None of it fits. None of it holds up under the pressure of the steel around you. So you say nothing. Instead, you point at the main drive shaft. How fast does that spin? Fletcher follows your gaze. Depends. Today, about 90 revolutions a minute. Feels like more. Everything does, he replies. Silence returns, if you can call it that. Just the noise of the ship. Just the constant reminder that this beast runs only because someone down here keeps feeding it. Eventually you stand. Your legs feel heavy, your shirt damp. Thanks, you say, though you're not sure why. Fletcher shrugs. This place doesn't judge. It just moves. That's why I like it. You leave him there, among the machines as he bends back to his work. You climb the ladder, rung by rung, until the engine roar fades just slightly and the temperature starts to drop. Back in your quarters, Davies is sleeping. The lights are dim. You lie on your bunk, the echo of the turbine still in your chest. The engine didn't stop today, and maybe it won't tomorrow. But now you know if it does, it won't be because it failed. It'll be because it was done. There are days on the ship that don't feel like anything. No fire, no shelling, no alarms, no orders beyond the usual, no emergencies. Just movement forward, endless, quiet. It should be a relief, a pause in the chaos, but instead it feels like something's missing, like the world forgot to include you in the next chapter. You wake early, not because you're on duty, but because your body no longer knows how to sleep in. The bunk is damp. Your blankets kick to the floor. There's a faint ache in your neck that wasn't there yesterday. You stare at the ceiling for a while. The ship rocks gently, just enough to remind you you're still on water. There's a dull thump every few minutes from deep below, probably the rudder, probably nothing. When you finally rise, the air feels thicker than usual. The kind of stillness you'd expect before a storm, except there are no clouds and no storm and no real explanation. You make your way through the corridor, brushing past other men in half uniforms. No one's rushing, no one's shouting. Everyone is drifting like sleepwalkers. Up on deck, the sky is a pale blue-grey, almost colourless. The sea matches it. There's no horizon, just a slow fade from water to air. Everything is flat, silent. Even the gulls are gone. You lean against the forward rail and stare outward. The salt hits your face. The wind barely stirs. It's easy to forget what you're doing out here on days like this. What the purpose is. What's waiting at the next port or the next battle line. You're just floating in a grey world with no edges and no centre. You could be anywhere, any time. You could be dead, and it wouldn't look much different. Davies appears beside you without a word. He doesn't look at you, just folds his arms and stares the same way you are into nothing. You ever think, he says finally, about what happens if the war just ends one day? Like they send a message out. That's it. Done. You shrug. I think about what happens if it doesn't. He nods slowly, then tilts his head to the side like he's chewing over something complicated. If we ever get back, I'm going to build something. Wood, maybe a little boat. Just something quiet that moves when you tell it to. Nothing that growls like this one. You glance at the deck under your feet, the metal skin of the ship humming faintly with buried motion. You've never thought of it as loud before, but now you can hear it, the constant clink of chains, the moan of metal under strain, the hiss of pressure somewhere in the depths. Even at rest, the ship sounds like it's trying to breathe through gritted teeth. Not a bad idea, you say. Build something. Put your hands on it. Yeah. He squints into the sky. Just something that stays where I leave it. He walks off after that, leaving you alone with the sea again. You stay longer than you should, until your shoulders begin to ache from the breeze, until your lips taste like salt, until the moment feels like it might stretch forever. Later you're assigned to a paint detail. They give you a brush, a can of grey that matches the ship too well, and a section of bulkhead with peeling spots. You scrub first, then coat. Slow, mindless work, the kind that makes your thoughts louder than the environment. You think about letters, about the ones you wrote and the ones you didn't, about the things you've seen that you never put on paper. What would be the point? How do you write? The ship hasn't made a sound all day, and it's worse than when it screams. Around you, the other men do the same. Quiet tasks, checking ropes, adjusting lifelines, cleaning already clean surfaces. It's not about maintenance, it's about motion. If you stop moving, the silence gets in, and once it's in, it doesn't let go. In the mess hall, dinner is barely a conversation. Tin trays, soft bread, lukewarm stew. You eat it because it's there, not because you're hungry. Someone mutters about how the potatoes are better this time. No one answers. The guy opposite you chews like he's never done anything else in his life. Eyes glazed, shoulders slumped. You realise it's not boredom, it's something deeper. This isn't rest, it's depletion. When nothing happens for long enough, you stop waiting for the next thing. You just dissolve into the routine. You become the ship, functioning, required, but not really alive. That night, someone breaks the silence. A harmonica, off tune, played slow, somewhere below deck. It's barely music, but it's enough to turn heads. You lie in your bunk and listen. One long note, then a pause, then another. It goes on for minutes. No song, just tones stretched over empty space. When it stops, there's no applause, no comment. But for the first time all day, someone coughs. Someone else shifts on their mattress. The silence is broken, not by noise, but by the memory of it. You close your eyes and dream of walking barefoot through grass. Not running, just walking. Nothing chasing you. No metal under your feet. No alarm bells or turbine hum. Just green, wet with dew, and the distant sound of insects and tall fields. You wake up before the dream ends, not because of anything in particular. You just do. The kind of waking that feels like you've risen too early, even though time doesn't matter anymore. The ship groans above you. Not warning, just wait. You lie still, eyes open. Salt in your nose, steel under your back. And the silence, always the silence, just waiting for the next noise to take its place. It rolls in quietly. No horn, no warning. Just a wall of grey that appears on the horizon like a curtain being drawn across the sea. You notice it during morning rotation, up on deck with a coil of rope slung over your shoulder. One moment the water stretches out in every direction, flat and empty. The next, it vanishes, swallowed. The officers call it a weather formation. Nothing unusual, but the veterans don't like it. You see it in how they glance at the sky, how they fidget with tools they've used 1,000 times. Fog means blindness. Fog means silence and noise in the same breath. Fog means something could be out there, close enough to reach out and touch, and you wouldn't know it until it was already tearing through your hull. Visibility drops in under 20 minutes. The fog wraps around the ship like a shroud. You can't see past the bow, you can't see the ocean. It's like the world ends 10 feet from where you stand. You hear water lapping gently against the hull, but there's no horizon anymore. No up or down. Just grey, featureless, infinite. Orders come down to reduce speed. Every movement becomes deliberate. Conversations shrink to whispers. Every clang of chain or stomp of a boot echoes too loudly in the new, padded world. The engines quiet down until they're barely audible, just enough to keep the ship moving forward through the void. The lookouts are doubled, binoculars held with white-knuckle fists. Their heads turn constantly, sweeping left to right, right to left, over and over, though there's nothing to see. You're not officially on watch, but nobody rests in fog. Everyone's a lookout now, whether assigned or not. You take your station near the forward deck, just beneath the starboard gun mount. The steel is cold under your gloves. You stand in the grey for what feels like hours, barely moving. Every so often, you hear voices from above, muffled calls between officers on the bridge. You can't make out the words. Doesn't matter. You know what they're saying. Keep sharp, keep quiet, keep moving. Then a sound. Faint, distant, like a breath of air over a bottle mouth. Could have been the sea, could have been your own ears playing tricks, but it didn't come from the ship. You freeze, wait, hold your breath. Nothing. Then it comes again. A low, drawn-out horn. You look up instinctively, though there's nothing to see but mist. A foghorn. Not yours. Another ship. You hear boots behind you. One of the officers passes by in a hurry. No eye contact. Just a muttered phrase into a speaking tube, and then he's gone. Moments later, the general quarters bell sounds one long, solemn note that echoes with finality. Battle stations. In fog. Your heartbeat climbs as you make your way to your position. You're not running. No one runs. But every step feels heavier, like the ship is sinking into something thick and invisible. Below deck, the gunners already know. You join the crew, shoulder to shoulder in the stifling heat of the turret room. The air is thick. The smell of grease and cordite heavy already, even though nothing's been fired. Everyone's waiting for the same thing, a shape to emerge. The shadow in the mist, the blur with teeth. Silence holds for longer than you think is possible. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Then a flash. Not from your ship. Somewhere off the port side, distant, white. Then the sound, a crack, delayed by distance. Then impact. A shudder through the steel. A deep boom somewhere above. Not direct, not fatal, but real. Then you fire. The whole room jumps. The recoil slams through your knees, rattles your teeth. Your head rings from the shock. The gun captain yells something, you barely catch it. Load again, target bearing, estimated range, fire. Another flash, this time from your side, then another, then two at once. The fog lights up like lightning behind a storm cloud, illuminating the outlines of turrets, antennae, funnels, and then it all vanishes again. The battle becomes a thing of seconds. No lines, no strategy, just guesses and gut instincts. Every flash could be death or salvation. You hear the shriek of something metal tearing far away. You hear men screaming on another deck. You hear water rushing in from a breach. You pass a shell along the line, feel the weight settle into the loader's arms. You duck just as the breach slams closed. Fire again. The air in the turret is a furnace now. Sweat pours down your neck. Your ears ring with every blast. Someone near you throws up. Doesn't stop working. You don't stop either. The fog never clears. You never see who you're fighting. But you hear them, the creak of a hull turning too close, the cough of another gun, the sharp bark of an emergency whistle. You fire again, and then quiet. Not total. The ship still breathes, men still move, but the guns stop. No more impact, no more flashes, just grey. You stay ready. Everyone does, but nothing comes. The fog holds, the sea rocks, the guns go silent. Eventually a voice crackles through the tube, orders to stand down, Enemy contact retreating, damage uncertain, casualty count unknown. You don't cheer. No one does. This wasn't a victory. This was a ghost fight. A near-death experience in slow motion. Back in the corridor, the air feels like soup. Every man you pass looks like you've been digging a grave. Eyes dark, shoulders drooped. You don't say a word. You return to your bunk, sit, hands shaking. Later that night, the fog lifts just a little. You climb to the deck, see stars again, see the black line of the sea. You notice a dark smudge on the far edge, floating debris, not yours. You remember the sound of that foghorn, the shadow, the silence between blasts. And you know someone else is out there now, drifting in their own silence. Maybe watching, maybe sinking, maybe waiting for the fog to roll in again. You didn't mean to end up here. You were looking for something else. A tool locker, a roll of canvas, a wrench to fix a jammed door hinge. That's what you told yourself, at least. But your feet carried you to the aft corridor, past the mess, past the infirmary, and then finally to the small steel door with the simple wooden cross bolted above it. No rank, no titles, just the cross. The chaplain's room isn't much. 8 feet wide, maybe 10 deep. No windows, no decoration. Just a bench bolted to the bulkhead, a tiny table with a chipped basin of water, and a narrow shelf with a handful of weathered books. Psalms, common prayers, a pocket Bible, and a slim collection of letters bound in fraying cloth. There's a single chair, and behind it a man in a black shirt and grey slacks, his sleeves rolled halfway up his forearms like everyone else on this ship. He doesn't look surprised to see you, just nods once, then gestures at the bench without a word. You sit. It's stiff and unforgiving, but it's quiet here. Not just in sound, in presence. The air feels still, like it hasn't been disturbed in hours, maybe days. The engine room hum is a distant murmur, and the usual clangs and footfalls of the lower decks feel muted, as if even the ship itself understands where you are. The chaplain doesn't ask what brings you. He doesn't need to. Eventually, he breaks the silence. You're not the first this week. You glance at him. His voice is soft, neutral, no sermon in it, just a statement of fact. He sets down the book he was reading and laces his fingers on the table. They usually come in after fog, he continues, or fire, sometimes both. You nod, slowly. I didn't come to pray. I wouldn't expect you to, he says. You pause then, because you're not sure why you stayed. You could have turned around, could have said you had the wrong room, could have claimed confusion and gone back to your bunk. But you didn't. He notices the pause. You don't need to talk, he offers. That's the mistake people make about this place. They think it's about words. It isn't. It's about space. Space! He leans back in his chair. There's nowhere to breathe on this ship. No place that doesn't hum or groan or stink. So sometimes I think my job isn't faith. It's providing space. You sit with that for a while, not sure what to make of it. He doesn't press. After a moment you ask, do you believe in hell? It surprises even you. You didn't plan to say it, didn't feel it coming. The chaplain doesn't flinch, doesn't smile either. I've seen it, he says quietly. Same as you. He opens a drawer and pulls out a battered metal tin. Inside are small envelopes, most of them unopened. Letters from home, from soldiers, from grieving mothers and confused sons. You recognise the kind that doesn't ask for answers, only acknowledgements. You know what most of them ask, he says. Not about God, not about purpose, just whether what they did still counts. You say nothing. War rewrites the definition of good, he says. Most people can live with that, until they can't. You feel it now, that knot behind your ribs, the one that's been there since the last boiler shift, since the deck ran red, since you handed off a shell to a gun that might have sunk a ship full of people not so different from you. The chaplain taps the edge of the tin. There's no comfort in here, he says, only weight, but I keep them anyway, because even pain deserves to be remembered. You let your shoulders drop. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, you feel your spine release its grip on your lungs. You exhale without realizing you are holding anything in. I don't know if I'm supposed to feel guilty, you say. That's how you know you still feel anything, he replies. He stands and pours 2 mugs of tea from a battered kettle in the corner. Hands you one without a word. It's strong, earthy, bitter, the kind of taste that stays with you. You don't thank him, you just drink. You notice a small photo tucked between the books on his shelf. A woman, older, worn hands clasped in her lap. Maybe his mother, maybe not. Doesn't matter. It's the only personal thing in the room. When you finish your tea, you set the mug down gently on the table. I should go, you say. He nods. No one stays long, he replies. It's not that kind of place. As you reach for the hatch, he says one more thing. You're not broken, he says, not looking up. You're reacting. And in war, that's the most human thing we've got left. You leave the room and step back into the corridor. The noise returns. The steam, the boots, the world. But something inside you is a little quieter now. The ship moves forward, same as ever. But for once you don't feel like you're just being carried. They issue you paper and envelopes when you board, back when you still think you'll use them. 5 sheets, 2 envelopes, a tiny stump of pencil barely longer than your thumb, folded inside your rucksack like rations. Back then, it seemed simple. Write home, keep the people you left behind from worrying. But weeks pass, then months, and the paper stays blank. It's not because you forgot. It's because you never knew where to begin. Tonight the ship is quiet. Not silent, never silent, but quieter. No drills, no gunfire. Just the distant thrum of engines and the occasional cough of someone 2 bunks over. You sit upright, feet on the cold floor, envelope in hand, pencil tucked behind your ear, paper creased from being carried too long without use. You stare at it like it might write itself. You think about your mother. She's probably still in the same house. Same chair, same kettle on the stove every morning. Her days small, manageable. She never liked too much noise, never liked too many questions. You picture her walking through the garden behind the house, pulling weeds with calloused fingers and talking to herself. You picture her reading your letter if you wrote one and you realise you don't know what kind of words she's waiting for. I'm fine. We're safe. I still sleep sometimes. They'd all be lies. Or not lies exactly, just fragments, chipped off the truth to make it easier to carry. You write her name on the first line, then stop. You think about your father. He never expected you to go, didn't say much when you did, just shook your hand too firmly at the train station and looked off in the distance, as if he couldn't stand to look at what you are becoming. You haven't heard from him. You're not sure you ever will. You imagine him pacing the same hallway every evening, trying not to ask your mother if a letter came, trying to pretend he doesn't care. You think about your sister. She'd be finishing school now, maybe. Probably more interested in books than in uniforms and newsreels. You remember the last thing she said to you? Don't come back like those other boys. You didn't ask what she meant. You didn't have to. You'd seen them 2 blank stares, short tempers, smiles that never reached their eyes. Your pencil hovers. Nothing comes. You fold the blank paper back into the envelope, not sealing it, just folding it like a ritual. You tuck it into the corner of your locker next to the others, all blank, all unsent. You've done this before, enough times that it doesn't feel like failure anymore, just a part of the process. You lie back in your bunk staring at the ceiling. The overhead light flickers slightly. A soft hum follows it. You count the seconds between the flickers. It's the only rhythm that feels predictable tonight. You remember the letter you did send the one during basic training, full of optimism, filled with made-up details about drills and uniforms, about camaraderie and purpose. You even said the food was decent. You think about that version of yourself and wonder how much of him still exists, How much got burned off in the first fire drill, the first dead man, the first night you lay awake wondering if you'd wake up at all? Some of the guys still write. Davies does. You've seen him huddled over his locker, tongue in the corner of his mouth, words spilling out like they're trying to escape. He never talks about what he puts in them, but he seals every envelope tight and hands it over like a sacred object. Sometimes you envy him, sometimes you resent it. You've seen what he's seen, so how does he still find the words? You tried once, really tried. Sat for an hour scrawling lines to the girl you left behind. You told her you missed her, told her you still remembered the sound of her laugh, that you couldn't wait to take her dancing again. And then the sirens went off. You folded the letter, shoved it into your pocket and forgot it until it came out in pieces with the wash, soaked and shredded beyond saving. You took that as a sign. Maybe she did too. You get up, walk the corridor, past sleeping forms, past the chaplain's room, past the infirmary. You hear someone snoring in one of the bunks. Another guy mutters something in his sleep, a name maybe. You turn the corner and find yourself outside the radio room. The hatch is sealed. Inside, the operator's voice filters through steady, professional coded language, clicking out into the airwaves. Maybe it's a report. Maybe it's another name added to a growing list. Maybe it's someone's letter being sent on their behalf. You imagine what it would be like if your letter, the real one, the one you never wrote, was sent for you after something went wrong. A form letter, a condolence, a sentence that starts with "We regret to inform you" and ends with "Service to the Crown." That's not a story. That's punctuation. You return to your bunk, sit on the edge of the mattress again. The envelope's still where you left it. You slide the paper out and stare at the top line. Then, quietly, without thinking, you begin. It's not poetic. It's not neat. But you write. About the sea. About the smell of oil and fire. About the boys in the boiler room who sing off-key while they work. About the silence after the guns stop. About how the fog made the whole ship hold its breath. You don't write about blood, or fear, or the noise in your head that never quite stops. You write about details, about the way the paint flakes off the bulkhead near your rack, about Davies muttering stories in his sleep, about how strong tea tastes better when it's been earned. And when you're done, you don't sign it. You fold it once, then again. You slide it into the envelope. You leave it unsealed. Tomorrow, maybe you'll send it. Or maybe it'll stay in the locker with the others. Either way, it's the first letter you've written that feels like it meant something. They don't say when. They don't say where. They don't even say for how long. But one morning, halfway through breakfast, a petty officer walks into the mess with a clipboard and starts rattling off names. Yours is the fourth on the list. No explanation, just a word. Shore leave. You don't react, not at first. You keep eating, spoon halfway to your mouth. The others around you pause, glance at each other. Then come the half grins, the slaps on the back, the low whistles of disbelief. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, there's something close to laughter echoing through the room. Not the nervous, forced kind, the real kind, the kind that sounds like hope remembered. You don't even know where the ship is. Somewhere in the channel, near enough to land, far enough to be cautious. A supply boat comes alongside just after noon. The sea is calm. The sky is the kind of pale that makes you think of summer, even though your skin still smells like smoke and sweat and machine oil. You climb aboard the tender with 7 others. All faces you know, all worn in the same places. Some of the men bring rucksacks, a few carry books. One has a photograph tucked into his coat. Nobody talks about what they're planning to do ashore. It's enough just to imagine it. The boat pulls away. The battleship looms above, massive and unnatural. You don't look back. You keep your eyes forward, watching as land emerges through the haze. A jagged line of cliffs, a sprawl of buildings, roads, trees, signs of life. When you dock, there's a sergeant on the pier with a clipboard. You line up, names are checked, warnings issued. Be back on time, no fights, no trouble, no women without clearance. A curfew is given, 12 hours, no extensions, no exceptions. Then you're free. You step onto solid ground and everything changes. The air smells different. Not of salt and steel, but of grass and cold smoke and food. The ground doesn't sway beneath your feet. The buildings are fixed. Nothing rattles unless it's supposed to. You walk without thinking about it. Your legs feel light and heavy at the same time. You head for town with Davies and a few others. No one has a plan. Just legs and time and the hunger for something, anything that isn't the ship. You pass a bakery. The smell nearly stops you cold. Fresh bread. Real bread. Not the kind that comes vacuum sealed in tins or powdered in sacks. You buy a roll hot from the oven and eat it standing on the curb, eyes closed. You can't remember the last time food made you feel anything. You walk more, a bar, a barber, a tailor. Everything looks too clean, too calm. The people here don't look like they know what you know. Their clothes are neat, their eyes aren't hollow. You catch a glimpse of yourself in a shop window, the sunken cheeks, the ash-grey skin, the way your posture never fully relaxes. You look like a ghost among the living. Davies drifts into a pub. You follow. The room is dim, warm, smells of beer and wood and old tobacco. A man is playing piano in the corner, slow, off-key but sincere. You find a table, a drink appears, you sip it, then again. The burn of it feels like a memory waking up in your chest. You sit in silence, the kind that feels earned. Then Davies speaks. Feels fake, doesn't it? You nod. Like we're borrowing someone else's life, he adds. You both sip again, a bartender's wiping glasses. No one's staring at you, but you can feel the way they glance not at your faces, but at the way your hands grip the glass too tightly, the way your backs never fully touch the chairs. An hour later, the others leave for cards, or girls, or both. You stay behind. Not because you're tired, because you're not ready to pretend that long. You walk back through the street. The sun's lower now, casting long shadows over cobblestones. You pass a park, real trees, real grass. Children's laughter somewhere out of sight. You stop near a small war memorial. An angel cast in iron, holding a sword pointed downward. Flowers at the base. Names carved into stone. Not from this war, the last one. The one they said would end all of them. You read the names, one at a time. None are familiar. All are familiar. You sit on the edge of the stone watching the sky change colour. For the first time in a long time, you let yourself imagine a life beyond this. A small flat somewhere. A room with windows. A job that doesn't involve the word ordnance. A name on a mailbox that belongs to you and stays there. The idea terrifies you more than the guns ever did. When it's nearly time to return, you walk to the edge of town. A boy is sitting on a fence post with a stick in his hand, drawing patterns in the dirt. He doesn't look up until you're beside him. Then he asks if you're a sailor. You nod. Did you see any sea monsters? He asks. You think about it, then you say, a few. His eyes go wide. What were they like? You smile just a little. Loud, ugly, full of smoke. He laughs. You haven't heard that sound in months. Not real laughter, not like that. You nod to him, then walk away. Back to the dock. Back to the boat. Back to the ship. The hull's massive shadow swallows the night as you board. You climb the ladder, boots clanking, and feel the air change again from shore to steel. Your bunk's just as you left it. Tight, quiet, familiar. You lie down, eyes open in the dark. The ground doesn't shake, the water doesn't call, but for the first time in a long time you dream of something other than fire. You dream of land. The alarm doesn't sound like the others. It's shrill, yes, but there's a pulse to it. Short bursts spaced too closely together, like a heartbeat under stress. You hear it in your sleep and know before your eyes open that something is wrong. Not a drill, not a test, something real, something tearing. You hit the deck in seconds, boots barely laced, uniform pulled on backwards. The corridor outside your berth is already full of movement men rushing toward the source, others doubling back to seal hatches. Someone shouting about a pipe burst. Someone else screams, "Fire!" But the direction of panic isn't clear yet. That's the most dangerous kind chaos with no compass. By the time you reach the middeck, the air is wrong. Hot, humid, acrid. Smoke, but not from fire steam. You feel it sticking to your face, curling up under your collar, finding the corners of your breath. You're directed to Damage Control Section 3 without question, and you go because there's no time to ask why. The corridor narrows the deeper you go. Pipes overhead throb with pressure, bolts sweating condensation. The walls feel like they're pulsing. Your boots slide slightly on the floor oil or water or both. You join a team already assembling at the access hatch. The petty officer in charge looks older than God and twice as mean. We've got flooding in storage and a ruptured pipe feeding through auxiliary line C. Pressure's climbing. Anyone touches the wrong valve will blow out the bulkhead and half the bloody crew with it. You nod like you understand. You don't. Not really. But you've done enough emergency shifts to know that understanding comes second. Obedience comes first. The hatch is cranked open and the sound hits you like a slap. A jet of steam screams from a sheared pipe along the ceiling, cutting across the room like a whip. You can't see where it ends, but you can smell burned paint and scorched insulation. One of the bulkhead panels is buckled. A pump on the far wall stutters like it's dying in real time. You're handed a fireproof hood, thick gloves, a tool bag. You don't ask what you're supposed to do. You just follow the others inside, crouching low, staying close to the wall. The heat is suffocating. You feel your skin dampen within seconds. The room hisses and groans around you like a wounded animal. Your job is to brace the pipe, not fix it, that'll come later. You just need to keep it from tearing open completely. A temporary clamp, a temporary patch, something to buy time. You watch as Davies wriggles under a burst valve, wrench in hand, his face pale behind the mask. His knuckles bleed where he scrapes against rusted metal. He doesn't stop. The petty officer shouts a correction. You move 2 inches to the left. A rivet near your elbow explodes. You don't flinch. There's no space for fear here, only task, only breath, only pressure. The pump fails. You hear it sputter, hear it try to cycle, then silence. The petty officer curses. Flood's coming. You turn and see it water surging through a break in the floor plates, dark and fast and rising. Someone slips, smacks the deck hard. You reach for them without thinking, grab their arm, haul them back toward the high rail. They grunt something that might be thanks, but it's lost under the roar of the steam. Valves are cranked. New clamps are screwed down. Someone brings in a secondary line to reroute pressure. The lights flicker. Just once. Just long enough to remind you how much worse this could be. You don't remember how long it lasts. Could be minutes. Could be a lifetime. But then slowly the hiss lowers. The water stops rising. The pipe groans but holds. The temperature levels out by a degree or two. You stand there, soaked to the waist, ears ringing, vision fogged, and realise you're still alive. When the petty officer gives the all clear, no one moves at first. Everyone's too tired, too aware of how close it came. Then, one by one, you retreat through the hatch, back into the corridor, away from the roar. You strip your gloves off and drop to your knees, coughing. The air out here is no cooler, but it's clearer. You can breathe without feeling like the ship is breathing through you. Davies drops beside you, wipes soot from his face. Thought that pipe was going to go, he mutters. Me too, you say. He laughs. It's weak, but it's there. Later, you file the report. Not your job, but the officer on duty asks you to write it up. You describe what you saw, the damage, the actions taken, the equipment used. You keep it dry, official. You don't mention the scream of the metal or the heat in your bones. You don't mention the way the deck seemed to shift like it was trying to buck you off. You don't say how close it was. You return to your bunk, strip your clothes, toss them into the bin. Your hands are red with heat. Your muscles feel like wire. You sit there, towel around your shoulders, heart still beating like it's running ahead of you. And that's when it hits you. This wasn't combat. This wasn't shellfire or shrapnel or enemy hands on the horizon. This was the ship itself, breaking, the machine that carries you deciding it couldn't take the weight anymore. You lie down and stare at the ceiling. Listen to the engine rumble below. The same sound as always. But now you know how close it came to silence. You don't see the captain often. He exists like a myth spoken of, felt, rarely seen. A presence more than a person. Orders come from him. Directives with his name signed in hard ink, passed down through the chain-like gospel. His voice crackles through the ship's intercom only on the most formal of occasions, filtered and distant like he's speaking from another world. You know his name. Everyone does. You've read it on the duty rosters, on the morning announcements. You've even practiced saying sir in your head, in case he ever spoke to you directly, which, until now, he never has. But today is different. Today, you're summoned. You're in the middle of folding your gear after the damage control mess when the petty officer finds you not even out of your sweat-stained undershirt. He doesn't explain, just tells you to come. Now. You don't ask why. You follow. The path winds upward, deck by deck, away from the sweat and smoke and grease, through levels of the ship you rarely visit, each one cleaner than the last. Less noise, fewer men. You pass closed doors and brass signs and compartments marked authorized only. You feel exposed, out of place, like you're walking through someone else's dream. Finally, you reach the bridge. It's smaller than you expected. The air here is still, cold almost. The windows wrap around the front like the eyes of some mechanical god peering endlessly into the sea. Instruments line the walls, glowing soft green and amber. Maps are pinned with tacks. Compasses twitch in their brackets. And at the centre of it all, the captain. He stands behind central console, hands clasped behind his back, spine perfectly straight. His uniform looks like it came from another era, pressed, dark, immaculate. His hair is streaked with grey, parted clean. His eyes, that's what strikes you most. Not their colour, a sharp blue, but the way they lock onto you the moment you step in. Like he's been watching for hours. Like you've just confirmed something for him. Seaman, he says. Not loud, but clear. Step forward. You do. He doesn't offer a chair. Doesn't need to. You'd never sit in front of him anyway. I've read your report, he says, referring to the damage control incident. Detailed, direct, no embellishment. You don't speak, you're not sure if it's praise or prelude. I prefer facts, he continues, but I also prefer to know the men beneath my decks. You nod once, your palms are damp, your heart's an irregular drum behind your ribs. You didn't panic, he says. You responded with clarity, efficiency. You want to say it wasn't just you, that Davies and the others deserve the same words, but you don't interrupt. There's a temptation in command, he says, turning slightly to face the sea, to become machinery, to think of men as components, replaceable, interchangeable, parts of the hull. He glances back. Temptation, and sometimes necessity. You're not sure if he's confessing or warning. Do you know what the worst part of command is? He asks, stepping closer. His boots echo softly against the floor. You shake your head. It's not sending men to die. It's knowing which ones you'll have to send again. He pauses there. Lets that hang in the air. I read the casualty reports myself, he says. Not just numbers, names. You'd be surprised how few officers do. They delegate it, call it administrative. But names matter. His gaze fixes on you again. That's why you're here. You feel your breath catch. I want men who remember names, he says. Who know what they're holding when they pass a shell to the loader. Who see more than steel when they patch a pipe. You try to nod, but your neck feels stiff. I've seen too many officers rise through rank by forgetting what death looks like. He picks up a sheet of paper from the desk. Your report. He folds it once, Then again, "You've got time left here," he says. "Time for more reports, time for more names. But I want you to remember something, Seaman. You wait. When this war is over, and it will end, whether we want it to or not, you'll be tempted to forget. The mind protects itself by discarding weight." He steps closer, voice quiet now, intimate. "Don't let it. Don't let this ship become a blur. Don't let the boys you eat beside become statistics." You swallow hard. He nods once, satisfied, then waves his hand toward the hatch. You don't salute. You're not sure if it would be welcome. You just step back, turn, and leave. The corridor feels colder on the way down. The air tastes metallic. Back in your bunk, you sit for a long time. The ship groans around you. Above, somewhere, the captain watches the sea. And now you've seen his eyes. You notice them before you see them. There's a sound, soft, skittering, just beneath the pitch of the engine hum, a kind of whisper made of claws and panic. You freeze the first time you hear it, halfway through a midnight water run, somewhere near the old munition stores on F-deck. At first you think it's in your head. The ship plays tricks like that. But then, something darts across the edge of the corridor, too fast and too low to be human. A rat. Not surprising. Not on a ship this old, this big. The officers pretend they're not here. The quartermaster insists all vermin were eliminated at last port. But anyone who's spent more than a week below the lower decks knows better. You've seen their droppings near the food crates, heard them behind bulkheads in the mess, watched them scurry through the heat of the engine room like they own it. They live where no one else wants to, among rust and steam and forgotten corners of the hull. You'd be lying if you said you didn't envy them. They don't answer to rank, don't salute, don't file reports or carry burdens heavier than their own bodies. They eat, they run, they hide when things get loud, and when they die, no one writes their names down. You see one again 2 days later near the cable junctions behind the turbine array. It pauses, mid-scamper, and locks eyes with you. Just for a second, long enough to register your shape. Then it's gone into the ductwork, into the shadows. Davies swears he saw one inside the ventilation shaft near the torpedo tubes. Had a white spot on its face, he says, as if that matters. Stared right at me like it knew something. You tell him you saw it too. The white spot, the stare. Soon it becomes a thing, a half joke, half superstition. The white rat, a phantom, a warning, a survivor. You hear other men mention it. You hear someone call it a lucky omen. You hear someone else spit and say it's death's messenger. Truth is, it's just a rat. But the ship's full of things that are just something. Just a noise, just a crack in the pipe. Just a delay. Just another face in the corridor. Until it isn't. The white rat shows up again on the night before your next combat patrol. You're in the supply corridor waiting for a crate lift to rise, and there it is perched on a pipe, still as a statue, watching. You don't move, neither does it. In that moment you wonder what it sees, what it knows. You wonder if it remembers the sound of shell fire, if it can sense the change in the air before something terrible happens, if it dreams. You don't speak. You just nod once, and strangely, it feels like it nods back. Then it's gone. You spend the next hour trying to decide whether it meant anything. Later, when the gun crews are called up and the ship lurches into battle formation, you find yourself scanning the deck, the shadows, the vents, looking for it. Not because it's important, but because it's familiar. Because it makes this place feel more like a living thing and less like a coffin riding the waves. Because maybe, just maybe, the rat is the only one down here who understands what it means to survive without leaving a mark. And maybe that's enough. You lie in your bunk that night and listen to the ship creak under your weight. You hear the sea slap against the hull. You hear boots on the deck above, the soft clatter of chains settling, the whisper of men trying to forget the day. And beneath it all distant, steady, the hum of the engine. You close your eyes and you see it all again. The guns, the fog, the fire. The men shouting over the roar of steel, the pipe that nearly exploded, the chaplain's quiet room, the letters you never sent, the silence that never fully left. And then, in the dark of your mind, you see that rat. Small, silent, watching. Because sometimes it's not the battle that defines you. It's the spaces in between. The moments of stillness, the breath before the order, the choice to keep going when there's nothing left but smoke and memory. The terrifying life aboard a World War I battleship wasn't just about explosions and death. It was about endurance, about surviving the machinery, the rituals, the silence. And if you've made it this far here, with me, I hope you feel that too. I hope in some strange way it helps you sleep. And if it did, consider subscribing. There are many more stories still adrift in the dark waiting to be told. Until next time, rest well, sailor. You're off watch now.